The massive Krellian battlecruiser drifted through the void, its sleek black hull bristling with weapons that had conquered 100 worlds. Commander Zartek stood on the bridge, his four arms crossed behind his back as he surveyed the tactical display. The small blue planet below belonged to a species called humans, newcomers to the galactic stage who had only achieved faster-than-light travel a mere decade ago. Pathetic, Zartek muttered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. These humans barely have 20 ships in their entire fleet. We have 50 warships here, each one capable of reducing their primitive vessels to atoms. His second-in-command, Subcommander Velenar, leaned forward at her station. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the human vessels. Their ships appear to be smaller than our scout crafts. Zartek laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Even better, they send toys against the might of the Krellian Empire. Signal the fleet. We attack in 10 minutes. I want this planet's surface glassed within the hour. The Krellian fleet had been the terror of the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their technology was unmatched, their warriors bred for combat across generations. When they set their sights on a world, that world fell. It was a simple equation that had never failed. But as Zartek watched the tactical display, something strange happened. The 20 human ships suddenly became 40, then 80, then 200. What is this? Velenar's voice carried a note of confusion. Some kind of sensor malfunction? Impossible, Zartek snarled. Our sensors are. The sentence died in his throat as space itself seemed to ripple. Where there had been empty void, human ships appeared as if stepping out from behind an invisible curtain. Not the small vessels they had detected earlier, but massive battleships that dwarfed even the largest Krellian dreadnought. Stealth technology, whispered the science officer, his voice trembling. But at this scale, it should be impossible. The human fleet, now numbered in the thousands, arranged in perfect formation around the Krellian armada. Each ship was unique in design, as if the humans had taken different approaches to the same problem and decided to use them all. Some were long and needle-like, others broad and flat. Some bristled with obvious weapons, while others were smooth and featureless. A communication channel opened, and for the first time in 3,000 years of conquest, a Krellian commander heard the voice of prey that did not beg. Krellian fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of our territory. This is your only warning. Zartek's mandibles spread wide in rage. How dare these primitives threaten the Krellian Empire? All ships, open fire. Show these insects the price of defiance. The Krellian fleet's weapons powered up, thousands of plasma cannons, and missile tubes preparing to unleash devastation. It should have been a massacre. The first Krellian ship to fire was a destroyer on the fleet's outer edge. Its plasma beam lanced out toward the nearest human vessel, a sleek craft no larger than a cargo hauler. The beam struck what appeared to be empty space a kilometer from the human ship, and simply stopped. The energy dispersed across an invisible barrier like water hitting a wall. Shields, the science officer reported, his voice now openly fearful. But the power requirements, it's impossible. Before Zartek could respond, the human ships returned fire. There were no visible weapons ports, no glowing barrels or missile launches. The human vessels simply pulsed with a faint blue light, and Krellian ships began to die. Not in explosions or dramatic detonations, but in silence. One moment a proud warship existed, the next it was gone, leaving only scattered atoms drifting in the void. Antimatter weapons, someone screamed. They're using contained antimatter beams. But even that assessment was wrong. The human weapons were something far more terrifying. They manipulated the fundamental forces of reality itself, unmaking matter at the quantum level. 3,000 years of Krellian technological advancement meant nothing against physics itself being used as a weapon. Zartek watched his fleet disappear. 50 ships became 40. 40 became 30. His proud armada was being erased with surgical precision. No missed shots, no wasted energy. Each human vessel selected a target and removed it from existence. Return fire. All weapons. Zartek roared, but his commands were meaningless. Krellian weapons that had shattered moon bases and cracked planetary crusts couldn't even scratch the human shields. Missiles detonated harmlessly in space, their targeting systems confused by electronic warfare suites that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The slaughter took exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds. As his own ship shuddered under the assault of weapons that defied understanding, Zartek had one final thought. The humans hadn't just won. They had demonstrated that the Krellian Empire, master of the galaxy for 3 millennia, was nothing more than a child playing with toys while the adults worked. His battlecruiser came apart at the seams, metal and flesh scattered across the void. The last thing his dying brain processed was Admiral Chen's voice, calm and professional. Cleanup operations complete. Signal Earth Command. The Krellian threat has been neutralized. Total time from first shot to last. 3 minutes, 47 seconds. No human casualties. Returning to standard patrol routes. The human fleet vanished as quickly as it had appeared, their stealth systems re-engaging. Where 50 Krellian warships had threatened genocide, only debris remained. The message would spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Humanity had arrived, and the old order was dead. In the depths of space, other species watched and trembled. The Krellians had ruled through fear and superior firepower. The humans, it seemed, didn't rule at all. They simply removed threats with the same casual efficiency that their ancestors had once hunted predators on their homeworld. The age of humanity had begun, not with a roar, but with a whisper that said, "We are here. Test us at your peril." News of the Krellian fleet's destruction spread through the galaxy like wildfire through dry grass. On 1,000 worlds, in 10,000 languages, the same impossible story was told. 50 Krellian warships had been reduced to atoms in less than 4 minutes by a species that had discovered faster-than-light travel only 10 years ago. In the crystalline spires of the Etherian Collective, the High Council convened an emergency session. These beings of pure thought had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but never had they seen anything like this. "The mathematics are impossible," transmitted Elder Prime Suval, its consciousness flickering with disbelief. "The energy requirements for those weapons exceed the output of small star. Where are the humans drawing such power?" "Perhaps," suggested another elder, "we have been looking at this wrong. We assumed humans were primitives because of their recent emergence. But what if they had these technologies all along and simply chose not to reveal them?" The debate raged for hours in accelerated thought time. Some argued for immediate contact with humanity, others for defensive preparations. But all agreed on one thing. The galaxy had fundamentally changed in those 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Meanwhile, in the war chambers of the Gorvok hegemony, a different conversation was taking place. The Gorvok were warriors bred and born, their entire society built around conquest and honor in battle. For generations, they had been the Krellians' only real rivals for military dominance. War Marshal Thok slammed his massive fist on the tactical table, leaving a dent in the reinforced metal. "This cannot be real. The Krellians were weak, yes, but not this weak. There must be trickery involved." His advisors exchanged nervous glances. One, braver than the rest, spoke up. "War Marshal, our long-range sensors confirm the engagement. The human weapons are unlike anything in our databases. They seem to manipulate matter at the subatomic level." "Bah," Thok spat. "Fancy technology is no match for Gorvok's strength and courage. Ready the Grand Fleet. If these humans think they can upset the balance of power, they will learn otherwise." But even as he gave the orders, doubt gnawed at him. The Krellians had not been weak. Their technology had been formidable, their tactics refined over millennia, and they had lasted less than 4 minutes. On the desert world of Kepler, 442b, human colonists went about their daily lives, unaware that their home had become the most watched planet in the galaxy. The colony looked deceptively primitive: prefab buildings, solar panels, greenhouse domes. No visible weapons, no military installations. Dr. James Wright stood in his laboratory, reviewing data from the engagement. He was one of the few who knew the truth about humanity's rapid technological advancement. It hadn't taken 10 years. It had taken 10,000. Humanity had been watching the stars long before they could reach them. They had listened to the broadcasts of alien civilizations, decoded their technologies, understood their weaknesses. While other species had grown complacent in their power, humans had done what they did best. They had prepared. The breakthrough had come not from discovering new physics, but from realizing that the aliens were using only a fraction of what physics allowed. They built weapons that were good enough and stopped innovating. Humans, paranoid and creative in equal measure, had asked a different question: what is possible? The answer had been terrifying in its scope. Wright's assistant, Dr. Lisa Park, entered with a report. The Gorvok are mobilizing. Initial estimates suggest they're bringing over 300 ships. Wright smiled, an expression that didn't reach his eyes. 300? They're taking us seriously then. Good. Ready the Europa contingent. Let's show them why quantity is a poor substitute for quality. Across human space, hidden installations came to life. The true human fleet was not the thousands of ships that had appeared at the Krellian engagement. Those have been merely the visible portion, like the tip of an iceberg. Beneath the surface, in pocket dimensions and folded space, weighted weapons that made the antimatter beams look like firecrackers. The Gorvok Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of human space with all the pomp and ceremony their warrior culture demanded. 317 ships, each one a testament to Gorvok engineering and aggression. They broadcast challenges in a dozen languages, demanding the humans meet them in honorable combat. The human response was swift and decisive. A single ship appeared, no larger than a Gorvok shuttle. It broadcast a simple message: the United Earth Defense Force declines your challenge. You have 10 seconds to withdraw. War Marshal Thok laughed at the insult. One ship against his entire fleet? The humans were either insane or suicidal. All ships destroy that insect. The Gorvok fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams, kinetic projectiles, nuclear missiles, gravity bombs, a symphony of destruction that could crack a small moon. All of it focused on that single, small human vessel. The ship didn't move. It didn't need to. The barrage hit a barrier that wasn't just a shield. It was a localized distortion of space-time itself. Weapons fire didn't bounce off or get absorbed. It simply ceased to exist upon contact. The small ship hung in space, untouched and untroubled. Then it responded. A pulse of light expanded from the human vessel, washing over the Gorvok fleet like a gentle wave. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the War Marshal noticed his weapons were offline. All of them. On every ship. Systems failure across the fleet, reported his tactical officer. It's not damage, War Marshal. It's like our weapons have been deleted from existence. The human ship broadcast again. Your weapons have been neutralized. You're no longer a threat. You may leave under your own power, or we can send you home. Choose. Thok's rage knew no bounds. To be dismissed like unruly children. Ram them. If we cannot shoot, we will crush them with our hulls. The Gorvok fleet surged forward, 300 ships bearing down on a single target. It should have been over in seconds. The human vessel finally moved. It didn't accelerate in any conventional sense. One moment it was there, the next it was somewhere else, leaving brief afterimages as it danced between the Gorvok ships. And wherever it had been, Gorvok vessels simply stopped. Not destroyed, not damaged, but frozen in place like insects in amber. Stasis fields, whispered the science officer. They're locking our ships in temporal bubbles. We're watching the future happen around us while we're trapped in a single moment. One by one, the mighty Gorvok Grand Fleet was neutralized. No violence, no destruction, just the gentle application of physics that the warrior race had never bothered to fully understand. In 8 minutes, 317 warships hung motionless in space, their crews trapped but unharmed. The human vessel broadcast one final message, this time on all galactic frequencies. The United Earth Defense Force has no interest in conquest or empire. We seek peaceful coexistence with all species. But those who bring violence to our door will find we have moved beyond violence entirely. We do not destroy our enemies. We simply remove their ability to be enemies. Consider this a demonstration of mercy. There will not be a second one. The message reverberated across the galaxy, and with it came a terrible understanding. The humans had not just won 2 battles. They had made war itself obsolete. How could you fight an enemy that could turn off your weapons with a thought? How could you threaten a species that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than limitations? In the high councils and war rooms of 100 civilizations, the same conclusion was reached. The age of conquest was over. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply made it impossible for anyone else to do so. And in the quiet of space, frozen Gorvok warriors had an eternity to contemplate a simple truth. The humans had shown mercy. The same technology that had frozen them could have unmade them. The choice to preserve rather than destroy spoke louder than any weapon ever could. The galaxy would need to find a new way forward. The humans, it seemed, were willing to show them how. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, in a facility that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, Admiral Sarachon stood before the Council of Humanity. These were not politicians or military leaders in any conventional sense. They were the keepers of humanity's greatest secret. The demonstrations have had the desired effect, Chen reported. Both aggressive species have been neutralized without loss of life. The galaxy is watching and waiting. The figure at the center of the council nodded. They appeared as a simple elderly woman, but Chen knew this was merely a projection. The true forms of the council existed partially outside normal space-time, a necessity for operating the technologies humanity had developed. The time of hiding is ending, the figure said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in dimensions Chen could barely perceive. But we must be careful. Show them too much too fast, and fear will override reason. Chen understood. Humanity's technological advancement hadn't been natural. It had been guided, shaped by a discovery made in the early days of radio astronomy. Hidden in the cosmic background radiation, encoded in the very fabric of space itself, had been a message. Not words or mathematics, but pure information that rewrote human understanding of reality. The message had been simple. You are not alone. You're not the first. Learn from our mistakes. What followed had been a century of secret development. While the public face of humanity struggled with chemical rockets and basic computers, a select few worked with technologies that bent reality itself. They learned that faster-than-light travel was not about going faster, but about understanding that distance was an illusion. They discovered that energy and matter were not just equivalent, but programmable. Most importantly, they learned why the galaxy was full of life, but empty of truly advanced civilizations. Every species that had received the message had made the same mistake. They had used their newfound power for conquest, and they had all fallen, destroyed by their own weapons or by others who had learned the same lessons. Humanity had chosen a different path. Instead of conquest, they had chosen guardianship. The Etherian Collective has requested formal contact, Chun continued. They're the most advanced civilization currently active, and they're frightened. As they should be. Another council member interjected. This one appeared as a young man, though his eyes held depths that spoke of centuries. They've spent 10,000 years believing they were approaching the pinnacle of evolution. To learn that a primitive species has surpassed them in a decade is shattering their worldview. The elderly woman raised a hand. Then, we must be gentle. Send Ambassador Liu. She has a gift for making the impossible seem merely improbable. 3 days later, Ambassador Michelle Liu stood in the crystal halls of the Etherian Collective. The beings around her existed as patterns of pure thought, their forms shifting and flowing like living equations. They had transcended physical bodies millennia ago, believing it to be the ultimate evolution. "We greet you, ambassador of humanity." The Elder Prime transmitted, its thoughts tinged with caution and curiosity. "We seek understanding. Your species achieved in 10 years what took us 10,000. How?" Lou smiled, a gesture that required no translation across species. "Respected Elder, the question itself contains a false assumption. We did not achieve this in 10 years. We achieved it in approximately 100,000. Confusion rippled through the assembled Etherians. "Explain." 100,000 years ago, Lou began, humanity's ancestors looked at the stars and wondered. 50,000 years ago, we painted their patterns on cave walls. 10,000 years ago, we built monuments to track their movements. 1,000 years ago, we invented telescopes to see them clearly. 100 years ago, we began listening to their songs." She paused, letting the poetry of her words sink in. "Every step, every generation, we build upon what came before. We're not a young species that suddenly advanced. We're an old species that finally remembered how to dream. But your technology's another Etherian pressed. They violate known physics." "No, you corrected gently. They complete it. You stopped at transcending matter. We asked what transcended energy. You mastered thought. We asked what thoughts were made of. Every answer led to new questions, and we never stopped asking." The Elder Prime's form fluctuated, processing this information. "The message in the background radiation. You found it too. It wasn't a question." Lou nodded. "As did you, I suspect. And, like you, we learned from it. But where you saw a goal to achieve, transcendence, evolution, advancement, we saw a warning. Every species that used these technologies for dominance fell. So we chose a different path. Guardianship," the Elder Prime mused. "You police the galaxy?" "No," Lou said firmly. "We protect it. From itself, if necessary." The Krellians and Gorvok were about to unleash weapons that would have destabilized local space-time. Their war would have destroyed 17 inhabited systems. We prevented that. The Etherians fell silent, contemplating. Finally, the Elder Prime spoke. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," Lou replied. "But we offer partnership. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. The old way, might makes right, advancement through conquest, is ending. We offer a new way. Advancement through cooperation. Strength through diversity." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, humanity's true nature was revealing itself in small ways. Human medical ships appeared at plague-stricken worlds, curing diseases that had baffled native doctors for centuries. Human engineers helped rebuild cities destroyed by natural disasters, using technologies that turned rubble back into pristine structures. Human teachers shared knowledge freely, asking nothing in return. But it was the military demonstrations that truly drove the point home. When pirates threatened shipping lanes, human patrol craft simply appeared, disabled the pirates' weapons, and left them for local authorities. When a rogue asteroid threatened an inhabited world, humans didn't destroy it. They moved it, placing it in a stable orbit where it could be mined for resources. The message was clear. Humanity had power beyond measure, but they used it to help, not harm. Yet questions remained. In the shadowy corners of galactic civilization, whispers spread. Where had humanity really gotten their technology? What was the true meaning of the message in the cosmic background radiation? And what were they not telling? On a remote monitoring station at the edge of known space, Specialist David Kim detected something that made his blood run cold. The sensors, more advanced than anything the galaxy knew existed, had picked up an anomaly. Something was coming from beyond the galactic edge, moving at speeds that shouldn't be possible. He sent an encrypted message to Earth. Watchtower 7 to command. "We have a code-black situation. Something's coming, and it's not using any technology we recognize. It's older, much older." In the lunar facility, the Council received the message with grim acceptance. They had known this day would come. The message in the background radiation had been more than instruction. It had been a warning. The species that had sent it had fallen to something and that something was still out there. Begin Protocol 7, the elderly woman ordered. Activate all hidden assets. If the Devourers have finally found us, we'll need everything. Across human space, installations that had been dormant for decades came online. Ships that existed more as ideas than physical objects materialized in real space. Weapons that humanity had hoped never to use were brought to readiness. The galaxy had wondered at humanity's power. They were about to learn that what they had seen was humanity being gentle. The true extent of human capability had been held in reserve for this moment, the moment when the ancient enemy returned. In her office, Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display showing the approaching threat. The Krellians and Gorvok had been tests, practice runs for this moment. Everything humanity had done had been preparation for the real war, the war against entropy itself, made manifest. Send a message to all species, she ordered. Tell them the truth. All of it. They deserve to know what's coming. The message went out, reaching every corner of the galaxy in moments. This is humanity calling all civilizations. Our deception is ended. We are not conquerors or guardians. We are survivors of a war that began before your species existed. And now that war has come here. Stand with us or stand aside, but know this, the age of playing at war is over. The real war for existence itself is about to begin. The thing that emerged from beyond the galactic edge defied description. It was not a ship or a fleet or even a creature in any sense that organic minds could grasp. It was a distortion in reality itself, a wound in the fabric of space-time that grew larger with each passing moment. Where it touched, stars dimmed and died. Planets simply ceased, not destroyed but unmade, their matter converted into something that violated every known law of physics. In the command center of Earth's moon, Admiral Chun watched the readings with grim determination. Around her, the greatest minds of humanity worked frantically, but she could see the truth in their eyes. They had prepared for an enemy. This was something far worse. Energy readings are off the scale, reported Dr. Wright, his voice steady despite the fear Chen knew he felt. It's not consuming matter in any conventional sense. It's converting it into nothing, pure entropy given form. The Devourers, Chen said quietly. The message warned us. The species that sent it fought these things and lost. But they still managed to seed the message throughout the cosmic background radiation, Dr. Park added. They lost the war, but won a battle. They gave other species a chance to prepare. Chen nodded. And we have prepared. Send the activation signal. It's time to show the galaxy why humans were really chosen. Across human space, the true fleet revealed itself. Not thousands of ships, but millions. They emerged from pocket dimensions, from folded space, from the spaces between atoms. Each vessel was unique, designed for a specific purpose in a war against unreality itself. But, more importantly, humanity revealed the truth about their species. The cosmic message had not been randomly received. It had been targeted, sent specifically to species with a unique trait, the ability to hold multiple contradictory ideas simultaneously. Most species evolved toward logical consistency, eliminating paradoxes from their thinking. Humans had evolved differently. They could believe in science while practicing faith, pursue war while desiring peace, fear death while seeking it through extreme sports. This cognitive flexibility, often seen as a flaw, was the key to fighting the Devourers. Because the Devourers were paradox incarnate, existence that sought non-existence, order that created chaos. To fight them required weapons that shouldn't work, strategies that defied logic, and minds that could function while reality itself became uncertain. All species, this is Ambassador Liu. The message went out across the galaxy. What approaches is not a conventional enemy. It is entropy itself, seeking to return the universe to nothingness. We can fight it, but we need your help. Not your weapons, but your perspectives. Every species sees reality differently. That diversity is our strength. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Etherian collective, masters of pure thought, offered their processing power. The Gorvok, released from their stasis fields, pledged their courage and tactical expertise. Even the remnants of the Krellian Empire, humbled but not broken, shared their knowledge of shield harmonics. But it was the smaller species, the ones who had hidden in fear of the great powers, who provided the most crucial insights. The Murians, aquatic beings from a water world, understood flow dynamics in ways that translated to space-time manipulation. The crystallids, silicon-based life forms, perceived time as a physical dimension that could be shaped. The void dancers, who live in the spaces between stars, knew how to exist where existence itself was questionable. The human fleet, now augmented with technologies and perspective from 100 species, moved to intercept the Devourer. The first engagement was a disaster. Human weapons that could unmake matter at the quantum level simply passed through the Devourer without effect. Shields that could stop supernovas crumbled like paper. 300 ships were lost in the first minute, not destroyed, but erased from history itself. The crew's families forgot they had ever existed. Their contributions to human knowledge vanished from databases. Pull back, Chun ordered. Pattern analysis was wrong. It's not using technology we can counter. It's rewriting the rules themselves. But even as humanity retreated, they learned. Each ship lost provided data. Each failed weapon taught a lesson. And slowly, a pattern emerged. It's not invulnerable, Dr. Wright announced, his excitement barely contained. It's selectively real. It chooses which aspects of reality to interact with. If we can predict its choices, we can force it to be vulnerable, Chun finished. But how do we predict the choices of something that exists outside causality? The answer came from an unexpected source. A junior analyst, barely out of the academy, raised her hand. What if we don't predict it? What if we make it predict us? The room fell silent. The analyst, nervous but determined, continued. Humans are inherently unpredictable. It's why we're so chaotic, why other species find us confusing. What if that's our weapon? Not our technology, but our randomness. Chen's eyes widened. Out of the mouths of babes. She's right. Order versus entropy is a losing game. Entropy always wins. But chaos versus entropy. Chaos is entropy with purpose, Dr. Park breathed. And humans are masters of purposeful chaos. The new strategy was insane by any logical standard. Human ships would attack without pattern, using weapons chosen by random number generators. Tactics would be decided by coin flips. Battle plans would be created by children playing with toy ships. The combined alien fleets thought humanity had gone mad. Until it started working. The Devourer, faced with true randomness, began to falter. It could predict and counter logical strategies, even complex ones. But against pure chaos guided by intent, it struggled. Human ships survived encounters that should have erased them. Weapons that shouldn't have worked suddenly did. It's working, someone shouted. The Devourer is becoming more solid, more real. Chin saw it too. The wound in reality was condensing, taking on form as it tried to adapt to human unpredictability. And as it became more real, it became more vulnerable. All ships, implement Protocol Omega, Chun ordered. It's time to show this thing what humans do to nightmares. Protocol Omega was humanity's last resort, a weapon so dangerous it had never been tested. It didn't destroy matter or energy. It destroyed possibility itself. By observing all possible outcomes simultaneously and then choosing none of them, it created a paradox that reality couldn't resolve. 1,000 human ships surrounded the Devourer and activated the weapon simultaneously. Space itself screamed. Reality bent, twisted, and then snapped back like a rubber band. For a moment that lasted eternity and no time at all, two forces met. Entropy seeking to unmake existence, and paradox refusing to let it. The universe held its breath. Then the Devourer made sound. Not through any medium, but through existence itself. It was the sound of surprise, of pain, of something that had never known defeat facing it for the first time. It began to retreat. Don't let it escape. Chun commanded. If it gets away, It will adapt, come back stronger. But the human fleet was exhausted. The Paradox weapon took tremendous toll on both ships and crews. They had wounded the Devourer, but killing it was beyond them. Then, the galaxy surprised everyone. The Etherian collective merged their consciousness with human battle computers, providing processing power beyond imagination. Gorvok warriors volunteered to fly suicide missions, their honor finding purpose in sacrifice. The Murians taught humans how to flow around the Devourer's defenses. The Crystallids showed how to crystallize time itself into weapons. Every species contributed what they could, not because humans commanded it, but because they finally understood. This was not humanity's war. It was everyone's war. And, in facing it together, they became something greater than the sum of their parts. The final assault was not a human victory. It was a galactic one. Hundreds of species working in concert, their diversity becoming their strength. The Devourer, faced with not one unpredictable enemy, but hundreds, each chaotic in their own unique way, finally broke. It didn't die in any conventional sense. Death was a concept for things that had lived. Instead, it simply stopped. The wound, in reality, healed. The distortion smoothed. Where entropy incarnate had been, only empty space remained. In the aftermath, as debris was cleared and the dead were mourned, the galaxy came together as never before. The old divisions seemed petty in the face of what they had survived. A new age was dawning, one where diversity was strength and cooperation was survival. Admiral Chun stood before the assembled representatives of all species. Her words would be remembered for millennia. We called ourselves guardians, but we were wrong. We are not above you or apart from you. We are you. Different faces of the same truth, that life, in all its forms, is worth fighting for. Today, we are all human. Today, you are all us. Today, we are truly united. The war was won, but the real victory was what came after. The technologies shared during the battle were not taken back. The alliances formed in desperation became partnerships in peace. The galaxy had faced its darkest hour and emerged into its brightest dawn. 1 year after the Devourer War, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Where one species had hoarded their knowledge behind walls of fear and mistrust, now information flowed freely across the new galactic network. The hub of this transformation was not Earth, as many expected, but a massive space station built where the final battle had been fought, Unity Point. Ambassador Michelle Liu walked through the station's promenade, marveling at the sight. Etherians floated past in their thought forms, discussing philosophy with Gorvok warriors who had traded their armor for scholars' robes. Murian engineers worked alongside human technicians, their combined expertise creating wonders that neither could have imagined alone. The air itself sparkled with crystallid chronometer particles, allowing beings from different temporal perceptions to interact seamlessly. She paused at a viewport, looking out at the memorial field where the battle had taken place. Thousands of markers floated in precise formation, each one representing a ship lost in the defense of existence itself. But between the markers, something beautiful was happening. Space itself was healing, and where reality had been wounded, new phenomena emerged. Particles that shouldn't exist danced in patterns that defied old physics. Baby stars were forming from nothing, as if the universe itself was celebrating its survival. Beautiful, isn't it? A voice said beside her. Liu turned to see Zartek, or rather, what Zartek had become. The former Krellian commander had been among the few survivors of his fleet, saved by human mercy. The experience had transformed him more than physically. Where once 4 arms had carried weapons, now they held data tablets and peace treaties. The memorial? Liu asked. No, Zartek said, his mandibles clicking in what she had learned was a smile. The fact that we're here to see it. My people ruled through fear for 3,000 years. We thought it made us strong. But in those 3 minutes when your fleet destroyed us, I learned true strength. It's not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. Liu nodded. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way, long before we reached the stars. We nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. Nuclear war, climate collapse, engineered plagues. Each time, we stepped back from the brink and chose a better path. When we found the cosmic message, we realized every species faces that choice. Most choose wrong, but not humanity. No, Lou agreed. Not because we're better, but because we're stubborn. Too stubborn to give up, too chaotic to stay down, too curious to stop asking what if. They were interrupted by an alert. Not an alarm of danger, but a chime of discovery. Throughout Unity Point, being stopped what they were doing and turned to the nearest screens. Admiral Chen appeared, her face showing exhaustion, but also excitement. Behind her, the Council of Humanity stood alongside representatives from every major species. The sight itself was historic, the mysterious council revealing themselves publicly for the first time. Citizens of the galaxy, Chen began, we have an announcement. Our combined sciences have made a discovery that changes everything once again. The Devourers were not unique. They were part of something larger, a natural function of the universe itself. Entropy incarnate, yes, but serving a purpose. The elderly woman from the council stepped forward. Her appearance had changed. Now she showed aspects of every species, a living symbol of unity. The universe is not static. It grows, evolves, thinks. The Devourers were its immune system, removing civilizations that threatened that growth through stagnation or destruction. Every species that received the cosmic message failed the test. They used the knowledge for dominance and were removed. But we didn't fail, Chen continued. Not humanity alone, but all of us together. We proved that life can evolve beyond a cycle of rise and fall. And the universe has noticed. The screen changed to show deep space scans from beyond the galactic edge. Where once there had been empty void, now there were lights. Thousands, millions of them. Galaxies that hadn't been there before, or perhaps had always been there, but hidden. The universe is opening to us, the elderly woman said, her voice carrying wonder. These are not new galaxies. They are old ones, filled with species that passed the same test we did. The cosmic message was not just a warning. It was an invitation. And by surviving the Devourers together, we have earned our place in the true galactic community. The implications were staggering. The galaxy they knew was not alone, had never been alone. It was one of countless others, each a testing ground where species either learned to transcend their primitive instincts or were recycled back into the cosmic flow. In the months that followed, first contact protocols were established with the greater galactic community. The beings they met were as diverse as imagination allowed. Creatures of pure energy, collective consciousnesses spanning star systems, mechanical civilizations that had transcended their creators, and others that defied classification entirely. But they all shared one trait. They had learned to work together. The elder civilizations shared knowledge freely, but refused to uplift the younger galaxy directly. You must grow at your own pace, they explained. Too much too fast leads to stagnation. But we will trade, we will talk, and we will learn from each other. Humanity's role in the new order was unique. They became the bridge builders, the translators not just of language, but of concept. Their chaotic nature allowed them to understand species that pure logic could not grasp. Their paradoxical thinking let them solve problems that had no rational solution. Dr. Wright, now head of the Galactic Science Consortium, made a discovery that explained why. Humans aren't actually chaotic, he announced at a gathering of scientists from 100 worlds. We're quantum. We exist in multiple states simultaneously until forced to choose. It's why we can hold contradictory beliefs, why we can see all sides of a problem. We're living embodiments of quantum superposition. The Etherians found this fascinating. The Gorvok found it honorable. The Murians found it flowing. Each species interpreted humanity through their own lens, and, in doing so, found reflections of themselves. 5 years passed. 10, 20. The galaxy grew and prospered in ways unimaginable during the Age of Conquest. Technologies merged, and evolved. Art and culture flowered as species shared their unique perspectives. The memorial at Unity Point became a pilgrimage site, reminding all who visited of the price of division and the power of unity. But humanity's greatest contribution was not their technology or their chaotic creativity. It was their children. Human children, raised alongside young of other species, developed abilities that amazed their parents. They could think in Etherean thought forms while playing Gorvok strength games. They could perceive time like crystallids while swimming with Murian fluidity. They were not becoming less human, but more than human. This is evolution, Lu, now elderly herself, told a gathering of these remarkable children. Not biological, but conscious. You are what we all can become, beings without the barriers that separated us. You think in harmony while maintaining your uniqueness. You are the future. One child, a girl whose best friend was a young void dancer, asked a question that silenced the room. If we pass the test and the universe opened to us, what's the next test? Lou smiled. That, little one, is the right question. And the fact that you're asking it means we're ready to find out. Above Unity Point, space rippled. A new message was forming in the cosmic background radiation, more complex than the first. The universe had new lessons to teach, new challenges to present. But this time, the galaxy would face them together. The human fleet that had once terrified the galaxy with its power now stood as part of a greater whole. Ships of every design and philosophy worked in concert, their differences their strength. They were ready for whatever came next, because they had learned the ultimate truth. The universe was not a battlefield to be conquered or a resource to be consumed. It was a symphony to be played, and every species was a unique instrument. The music they made together was greater than any could make alone. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not in the weapons they wielded or the enemies they defeated. It was in the simple recognition that human was not a species, but a choice, the choice to grow, to learn, to face the darkness with hope rather than fear. And as the galaxy turned its eyes to the future, ready for whatever wonders or challenges awaited, one thing was certain. They would face it together, as one people with many faces, united in their diversity and stronger for their differences. The age of humanity had not begun with their arrival on the galactic stage. It had begun the moment they chose mercy over vengeance, cooperation over domination. And in making that choice, they had shown every species that they too could be human in the truest sense of the word. The stars sang with possibility, and the galaxy listened, ready to add its voice to the eternal chorus of existence.